mothers, my fathers, my brothers, I lift up my voice and raise it high, telling the stories of your children's cries. For our ability to survive the onslaught of the enemy's drugs, guns, and alcohol, his prisons and his killing fields, depends directly on whether you are willing to stand up and resist the outrages that are being heaped upon us as a people and build a new society. Yes, the task is difficult. The odds are against you. But you must organize to find a way or make your own way. Go ahead, brother. You must change today so that tomorrow may dare to be different. And when you have fought back and regained your pride, when you have won some battles, when you are able to tell the stories of your heroism, when you can pass on to your young the tradition of struggle through examples of your having stood up for a better tomorrow, when you take control of our institutions, our media, our schools, when you maximize our economic resources towards our own benefits, when you stop making excuses, when you start standing with our mothers, when you stick it out with your families, when you start mentoring our young, when you start teaching us to be humane, then we can build a new nation of strong people. Your sons and daughters will no longer need to belong to gangs because they do belong. Our youth will no longer be seeking drugs as an escape because they would have outlets in our society to develop themselves. When you start setting the conditions for our youth to fulfill their humanities, then we will not be in despair. We will be whole, complete, and hopeful. My fathers, you must shape the vision of tomorrow. But in order for that vision to become a reality, you must rededicate yourself to a new beginning. Go back to your families. Go raise and teach your children. Go back and organize throughout this nation to bring about a better day for our people. Our enemies can destroy us one by one, but no one can stop 1 million men organized and committed. Thank you.
Well, good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Sunday program. I am the Rational Man, and I am going to get right into the program this morning. I could not rest over the last week. I flipped around, tossed and turned. Last night, I did not want to get up and do the program this morning because something was on my heart that had to be spoken. And I just had to speak to this subject this morning. Our subject this morning is entitled A Call for an American Awakening, or a real revival. When I was a kid, I used to love reading fables and stories that had a moral lesson to them. There was one in particular that I enjoyed reading, written by Hans Christian Andersen, called The Emperor's New Clothes. And in this story, The Emperor's New Clothes, there was an emperor who represented the people of his nation. And his character embodied, sorry about that. Get that. This emperor, his character embodied the people. And this emperor, he was vain in his mind and vain in his imagination. And he wanted to be different from everybody else in his kingdom, and because of his vanity. And so as a result, this king, these swindlers came into his kingdom and said that they could build or make him clothes that no one could see unless they were wise. They had to be wise to see the clothes. And he said, okay, that sounds like a good idea. And so this emperor, he commissioned them to make him these clothes that only the wise could see. And so they brought their spindles to the castle, and they're sitting there and they spinning on their spindles and looking at the thread, and there's nothing there. And the king would walk in every once in a while, and he would pretend like he saw the clothes on the spindle, and he said, oh, those are the finest colors. They're very nice. And he would go away, and then he'd send some of his representative, his congressmen, his courthouse into the kingdom in order to look at the clothes and see what they saw. And like him, they didn't see anything, but because only the wise could see it, they could not afford to say that they could not see anything. So they would say, all the leaders would say, oh, the colors are great. These are fine clothes. These are beautiful. And then finally, the king, they finished with the clothes. They called the king in to try the clothes on, or the emperor to try the clothes on, and they pretended like they were putting it on and patting him and everything, and asking him how he looked. And he looked in the mirror and he said that those clothes were beautiful. And so the king had a procession, and all the people lined up on both sides of the street because everybody wanted to see the emperor's new clothes, and only the wise could see them. And so the king is marching down the street, and everybody's, ooh, they're so beautiful. The colors are beautiful. And the leaders are all pretending like they see these clothes on this emperor. But this emperor is butt naked, walking down the street, prancing around, showing off, and he's butt naked, doesn't have a stitch of clothes on. But all the people are pretending like they see these clothes. See, because it was the social pressure of the people that made each one pretend like they saw clothes on this king, and no one wanted to be unwise by admitting that they don't see any clothes on this king. And it was one little boy in the crowd that did not succumb to the social pressure of pretending like he saw what was not there. And he said, the emperor is naked. And it was only that saying of the one little boy that gave courage to the rest of the population to admit that not only was the emperor naked, that they were also naked. And you see, in this story is about a social pressure of pretending like something is going on when it's not going on. This is the story. And it takes courage of a child to speak to it. And so, like I said in the beginning, this king represented the people. His character embodied the people. The emperor was vain and he was naked. and he did not know it because his vanity blinded him to his own nakedness. So he sincerely walked out and had press conferences and did all these things that the kings and emperors do, not knowing that he's naked. But the childlike mind sees that, hey, we're all naked. And since he was the embodiment of the people were also naked and suffered as a result of their nakedness. And it only takes a boyish one or a childlike mind to awaken the people from their own nakedness, their own sleep, and their own suffering, because they think that they're not suffering. What I'm doing is good, but in the quietness of their mind, they know they're suffering. There was a lesson written by Minister Farrakhan to his followers, and I always would pick up things from the minister and read them, even though I have never called myself a Muslim. I saw the wisdom in what the man was writing. And he wrote this lesson called Rising Above Emotion into the Mind of God. And when you are in the mind of God, you are in the mind of the all. Now, even though it was placed in religious context, it really isn't religion when you go there. When you become conscious of the mind of God, which is becoming conscious of your own self. And so there's a story in the Bible where one wanted to separate man from his oneness, and by doing so, his consciousness of his own power as a result of his connection to the Creator. And he had to get this man functioning on the level of emotion. And emotion is good to power something. Emotion is the gasoline that goes in the engine of the car so that you can get where you want to go. The emotional part is the gasoline. But in this story, there was one who tried to disconnect humanity from his connection to his creator so that he could get humanity to work and slave for him. Now, in reality, there's no way to sever the connection between your creator and you. There is no way that you can be separate from your creator. But it is possible to put you to sleep and cause you to dream of being separate from your creator. And in this biblical story, this was done by a process of first showing this man a pattern of separation in order to stimulate his desire to be separate from himself. And so the first thing he did is said, listen, I want you to name these animals. And he marched these separate animals 2 by 2 in front of this man who was in his oneness. He wanted to show a pattern of separation so that he could increase the pattern so he would see separation in all things. But he started from the small and he wanted to generalize it to the big. And so he marches these animals 2 by 2 in front of this united male and female and said, I want you to name these animals. And as he's marching, he sees a male cow and a female cow, a male lion and a female lion, a male pig and a female pig. And he's noticing these patterns. And as he noticed these patterns, he was stimulated into wanting to and desiring to be separate, like he witnessed on these separate animals. And so once he decided that, hey, I want to be separate like the animals, he was put to sleep. And the second phase of the process was done. Now, I want you to stay with me, because this is a story like the emperor's new clothes to illustrate a principle and a process of separation, and why there needs to be an awakening among the American people. And so once he desired to be separate like the animals that he noticed, he was put to sleep immediately. And not only a sleep, a deep sleep. And operate, you can read this in the second and third chapter of Genesis. And once he was put to sleep, an operation was done on him, causing him to dream of being separate from himself. The female was taken away and taught something else, and then brought back to him in a form that was foreign to him and given to him. And he accepted that form of himself because he had a desire to be separate like the animals. And by the way, when he was put to sleep, he was never awakened from that sleep. And this is all going on inside of him. An operation was done on him, causing him to dream of being separate from himself. He was never awakened by the one who put him in the deep sleep state. But he was taught that the dream was real, that this is real, that you are separate from yourself and you can be separate from God. And so in this dream, the man was totally unconscious of his reality and his power. And in this dream, he was separated from himself. He was cursed in this dream. He saw himself as cursed and cursed by God in this dream. He saw himself as afraid of everything, afraid of where he was, afraid of everything, afraid of God. And so he hid himself from God. In this dream, he was separate from himself. And in this dream, he had a view of his creator as one that he must serve, bow down to, but at the same time cursed him. The one he dreamed, the one he served, and the one he bowed down to, and the one he worshiped was the same one that cursed him and kept him in fear and death. And death was his constant companion as a result of this curse. We're talking about two stories that illustrate the same thing. Now, if you want to get this interpretation of this story that I just gave you, you can turn to the 13th chapter of Matthew in the New Testament, and Christ Jesus gives the interpretation of this, what I just talked about, when he talked about the wheats and the tare, and that the men were put to sleep, and an enemy came in and planted tares in this field of wheat, and the tares had a different added a different dimension to the reality of the mind, which the field in that story represented. The wheat in that story represented the thoughts of the originator planted in the mind, and the enemy represented the one who pretended to be their creator, who came and planted those thoughts, that wheat, into their minds. That's in the 13th chapter of Matthew. And Jesus is telling the story. Now, I want to talk a little bit as I work my way up to the American awakening, because this is what we're talking about. There's a story found in the Bible in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 18. And it's about these prophets of Baal. And well, let me read it for you. And it came to pass when Ahab saw Elijah that Ahab said to him, "Are you the one troubling Israel?" And the reason he asked him that question is because he was saying, hold up, we're going in the wrong direction. This is not the direction of our nation. This is not what was given to us as a constitution and a direction that we as a nation was supposed to go. And Elijah said to him, I'm not troubling Israel. You are the one. And your father's house, the king's house, the emperor's house, you're the one that's causing trouble in the nation. And you're causing trouble in that you have forgotten the commandments of the Lord and follow Baal or Balaam. Balaam is the religious philosophy of Baal. And you're following him and you're causing the nation to follow him. Now, therefore, send and gather to me all of the nation to Mount Carmel, and the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the grove 450 which eat at Jezebel the whore's table, but she's in a high position. She's a whore, and your father is in line with her, and y'all corrupting the whole nation. So I want you to send for me all them prophets, all them preachers, 450 of them that keep the groves of Baal, and 450 more which sit in Jezebel's table, the whore, sit at her table and he eat with her, and they're the ones teaching the people. So Ahab sent unto the children of Israel and gathered the prophets together unto Mount Carmel. And Elijah said unto all the people and said, how long have you between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people, like the ones in the story of the emperor's new clothes, it said the people answered him not a word. They stayed quiet. He put this question before the people and they stayed quiet because of the social pressure. Nobody wanted to be the oddball. Nobody wanted to tell the truth about the matter. And so he said this to them, if Baal be God, then let's follow him. If God be God, let's follow him. If the God of our fathers are the God that we should be following, let's follow him. But don't be in the middle. Don't be caught between two opinions. Are you American or are you not? And what is that? Then Elijah said unto the people, after he said that, I am the only one that remain a prophet of the Lord. I'm the only one left. See, in the story of the emperor's new clothes, it was only one child, and there were many, and all the people were there, but only one child was there to speak. He said, I am the only one that remained as a prophet of the Lord, but Baal's prophets are 450. In other words, there are a whole bunch of them. They're everywhere. They're all over the nation. They're preaching right now. They're all everywhere, preaching and talking about Baal and the glory of Baal, and got you bowing down and worshiping Baal, the idol. And so to prove this, let's do something. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks. Now, this was in the days of sacrifice. and that day is gone. But the point is here is being illustrated. Let them therefore give us 2 bulls, and let them choose 1 bull for themselves, cut it into pieces, lay it on wood, and put no fire under it, and I will dress the other bull, lay it on wood, and put no fire under it. And then we want you to first call on the name of Baal, and I then will call on the name of our God. And the God that answers by fire, that's the one we're going to choose. And now all the people, so notice in the Emperor's New Clothes, it was only one person that spoke to it. And when he spoke to it here in this story of Elijah, when he said that, all the people say, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that. See, they didn't have nothing to lose in it because whichever one answered, they was going to go that way anyway. They would have continued to go with Baal, or they would switch up and go with the God that Elijah was talking about. And Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal, choose you 1 bullock for yourself, dress it first, for you are many, and call on the name of your gods, but put no fire under it. And so all the preachers did that. They said, okay, because they were confident, because they had the stage and nobody could really challenge them in a way to where the people would be able to think and compare and reason with it. So this was a situation where the table was even. And so they took the bulls, which was given to them. They dressed it, called on the name of Baal from the morning even unto noon, saying, "O Baal, hear us." But there was no voice, nor anything that answered. They leaped upon the altar which was made. See, they called and called and called, but the people's condition did not change. Though they called from morning to evening, they called and called and called, but the people's condition never changed as a result of them calling down that God. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them. He started talking about it. He said, cry loud, for he is a God. Either he is talking, or he's pursuing, or he's in a journey, or maybe he's asleep and must be awakened. Because see, he was not answering, though they called. And you know that he's not answering because the people have been listening to them and their teachings, and yet their condition never changed. See, these are the hidden stories in it. And so don't get thrown off because of the story. Look beneath the story. The story is just a symbol of a principle that's hiding in the story. And they cried aloud. When he started teasing them, they cried aloud and they began to cut themselves. They began to sacrifice and telling the people to sacrifice. Give it to it hurts. And it came to pass when midday was past, and they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice nor any to answer, nor any that regarded them. How long they been calling on them? How long have we been listening? How long will you be caught between two? If the destructive force that we've been obeying, we want to go that direction and keep being destroyed. Okay, let's just say it. We want to be destroyed. We want to go this direction. We want to continue in this direction. If that be the direction you want to go, then by golly, let's declare this is the direction we are going to go. We will sacrifice our children. We will sacrifice ourselves. We will sacrifice our future. We will sacrifice our nation for this. Baal be God, then serve him. And Elijah said unto the people, come. And all the people came to him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down. Now, what is the altar? This is the altar of God. This is where God sits. God is not in a temple made with the hands of men, neither is he worshiped with the raised hands of men. But he is in him, and we are he's in us, and we are in him. And in him we live, we move, and have our being. So Elijah repaired the altar first that was broken down. When Jesus kicked them preachers out of the temple, it was not it was a symbolic thing. He went into the temple and threw out the money changers. Come here. Come closer. I got something for you. And so Elijah repaired the altar first that was broken down. In other words, prepare your mind to receive the knowledge of your God. And Elijah took 12 stones according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench about the altar as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. Now that's their language back then. And he put the wood in order and cut the bulls in pieces and laid it on the wood and said, fill 4 barrels with water and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood. And he said, do it a second time. And they did it a second time. He said, do it a third time. And they did it a third time. And the water ran round about the altar, and he filled the trench also with water. See, you have to, there can be no doubt as to who it is talking to you. And the only way that there can be no doubt is that you clean the altar and you go into the closet, shut your door, call on your Father in secret, and therefore you will get the message in secret for yourself. So this whole pouring water onto the altar and pouring it around the altar was so that you would not have any doubt as to who it is you're dealing with. And it came to pass that at the time of the evening sacrifice, that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that you are the God, and that I am your servant, and I have done all these things at your word. Hear me, that this people may know that you are the Lord their God, and that you has turned their hearts back again. We're going to get into that, what that means, because he literally said repented. You have turned their hearts from Baal back to you. How did he know that? Because the people were worn out. There was death. They needed relief. And so they were willing to at least hear. And he said that the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood and the stones and the dust and licked up the water that was in the trench. Let me divert for a moment to Christ being baptized by John the Baptist so you can see how this actually works. If you read that story when John the Baptist saw Jesus and said, oh, this is the Lamb that takes away the sins of the world, and he came and baptized him, it was Jesus or Christ, I should say, that saw the heavens open up. Where's heaven? Within you. If you read the story, it wasn't the people standing there looking that saw the heavens open up. It was Christ, Jesus, who saw the heavens open up. The Bible says the heavens opened up to him, and a dove came down to him. People didn't see it. He went into the closet right there after being baptized by John. Now, hold on to that for a moment, because you need to know for yourself. The Reverend can't teach you, because he ain't got it yet. He ain't figured it out yet. And so the fire came down and burnt the sacrifice and the wood and the dust and licked up the water that was in the trench. And verse 39 says, and when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and they said, the Lord, oh my God, he is God. The Lord, he is God. They were excited. See, that's what you will do when you go into your closet, close your door, call on your Father. You're going to get a realization of the truth. You don't have to go nowhere else to get this, what I'm talking about. Now look at what Elijah did. And Elijah said unto them, after the people came to their realization, this was a revival. They awakened to the realization that they had been deceived. They had been misled. And their condition was the thing that proved it. And the condition was connected to what they were being taught and what they were listening to. And Elijah said unto them, after they woke up, he said in verse 39, the Lord, he is the God. The Lord, he is the God. The Lord, he is the God. It was a realization, not a celebration as such. It was a realization. And they were shocked at the realization. And so after that, Elijah said to them, take them preachers and let not one of them escape. And they took them preachers down to the brook of Kishon and slew every single one of them there. I feel a little like Jonah. I don't want to tell you what that means. But I got to tell you that what that means, or else you would think I'm saying something that I'm not saying. Jonah didn't want to tell the people. He didn't want to tell them because he knew what it was, but he didn't want to tell them. He wanted them to come to their own conclusion and go out and take out all the preachers. But Elijah said, take the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they took them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook, and they put it on them. Let me put it that way. The prophets of Baal represent the tares that are in your mind, the thoughts of destruction that's in your mind, that's ruling your environment. And you still have the wheat in the mind. You have the wheat on one side because the tares had caused a split in your mind because it was planted by an enemy, and because they do not integrate with the wheat, it causes a split in your mind. And on one side, you have the tares in your mind, and on the other side, you have the thoughts or the wheat in your mind. And when you gather the prophets of Baal, you're gathering the thoughts that was of the enemy, the tares. Those are the thoughts of Baal. And when he says, choose you this day, he said, choose the wheat or choose the tares. Choose the thoughts that were planted with you when you were created, planted in your mind, or choose the other thoughts. One of them got to go. You can't have them both there in the same mind. So he took the prophets of Baal. Yeah, I don't want to tell it like that, but that's the truth of it. And just like in the story of the wheat and the tares, the first gather them up for the fire. They're consumed by the fire. And so if it seemed evil to you, I'm saying to you, to be with the God of your fathers who created you in righteousness and give your mind totally over to that righteousness, choose you this day who you going to get with. Whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of slavery, or the gods of the those who have come into our nation and inserted thoughts that got us all fighting and divided. Which one do you want? So you may be asking, why are you troubling us with this? Why are you doing this? I actually get asked this all the time. Why are you doing this? Why are you causing more trouble? I'm not the one causing trouble. The trouble has always been here. When we lost the path, when the nation got off the path that it was going on, that's what got us here. And there's a reason for that. And so my lesson is a call for an American awakening, a real revival. And I'm talking about the American awakening. I'm talking about Americans as those who trust in the principles articulated in the Declaration of Independence and spelled out in the Constitution of this country. I'm not talking about no religion. Your religion or your spiritual development will cause you to integrate into the nation as it was brought out and as it was developing. So I'm calling Americans and an American awakening, a revival, those who trust in the principles. The principles transcend the people who wrote it and their thinking. The principles transcend the environment. They don't bend to the environment. They stay true in any environment. So I'm calling out those who understand that the Declaration of Independence articulated principles that can be used by anyone, and these principles are really the nature of humanity. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created by God, or all men are created with certain inalienable rights. And among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There are a whole bunch of rights that are inalienable, and inalienable mean that they can't be given to you by another man, nor taken away from you by another man. And everybody was given these rights, every individual. These are self-evident rights. And among these rights are life. These are only three of them: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They said among these rights. You won't find out what they all are until you go into your closet and close your door. There was a time when America was following its Constitution and heading in the direction of one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's part of the Pledge of Allegiance. But again, I know how we feel as Black Americans. I know how we feel. I'm pledging allegiance to that flag because all the death and hell didn't come under the Confederate flag. It came under the red, white, and blue stars and stripes. I get it. I get it. I know we got pain in us from all of that, which is partly why this message is being brought out today. But there was a time when America was following its Constitution and heading in the direction of one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. It wasn't there, but it was heading in that direction. This country is comprised of the planet. We shouldn't be attacking anybody anywhere except in self-defense, because we are the planet. We represent all peoples on this planet. And that principle right there, with the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, allows for the planet, allows for us to be the example of the planet. And so there was a time when this country was following its Constitution and headed in that direction. Yes, there were still problems. Yes, we were still violence on this. Yes, I get it, brothers and sisters. I am not minimizing what has been done to us under this country. I'm not minimizing. But I want you to ride with me for a moment. You can get out the car. I'll stop for you. And you can get out the car. The country was headed in that direction of one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. Now, there were some who said, okay, that's a Christian nation. No, no, no. The same God that they said in the Pledge of Allegiance, they were talking about the creator of us. And the only way you can discover that is by going inside. They were not telling you to become a Christian nation, because if it's a Christian nation, hell is waiting for us from all that Christianity has done. No, we're not a Christian nation, and we never will be a Christian nation. You may be a Christian in the nation, but the nation is comprised of the family of God. The nation is comprised of the human family. And the human family, I got a son that's an atheist. He's part of my family. I got a son that's a Christian. He's a conservative Christian. He's part of my family. He's in my family. I got a son that's an agnostic. I'm the father of all of them. So when this country was headed and developing and evolving, our families were evolving. Yes, we were segregated, but our families were evolving under that. That's what we needed to evolve, and maybe integration into the greater society as the way we did it maybe was not the correct thing, because when you look at our family structures now, it is a mess. Our families were evolved. The nation was optimistic. Our grievances were being addressed. I'm talking about everybody's grievances. Our nation was looking like the world that God created, with all its diversity in mind of the human family and the family of creation. But a third party got between us. A third party came into our nation with a thought. And this party cannot afford us to be one nation of humanity. It cannot afford humanity to be modeled by this nation. And that was the reason that people were starting to want to come here, because it modeled opportunity of the entire human family. But there is a mind that cannot afford us to be one nation. Because if we related to each other as countrymen, as brothers and sisters. You know, the Bible says, crown thy good. Oh, I'm sorry, not the Bible, but the song says, crown thy good with what? Brotherhood. From sea to shining sea. So when the good is ruling, brotherhood manifests. When the wicked rule, the people mourn. What are the people doing? In the emperor's new clothes, what were the people doing? When in Elijah's day, when he was talking about the prophets of Baal, what were the people doing? The people mourn when the wicked rule, and the wicked represent every single institution that is under the head of the ruler. A third party was introduced into our nation. A third mind of thought was planted into the nation, and it got the nation off the path. And this party cannot afford for us to be one nation of humanity, because if we were, we would not serve them and keep their garden and dress their garden. We would not do it. We would serve each other as a family. I'm calling for an awakening and a revival. There is a story told in the book of Genesis that illustrates this point of a foreign thought coming in and destroying the family. In the book of Genesis, chapter 11, it tells the story of the Tower of Babel. And listen to this story, how it's worded in the King James Version. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. We had the same thought, we had the same words. And when I say same, I'm not talking about exact, I'm talking about it all our thoughts promoted the oneness. All our thoughts contributed to the oneness of the human family. And so the whole human family was of one language and one speech. And Genesis 11, verse 2, and it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. There were some who decided to go here, travel, go there, but we were all still oneness. And they said to one another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and slime they had for mortar. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Now, why would they have that concern? Why would they have that concern to build a symbol of their unity? Because they were concerned about being scattered. And this scattering is talking about confused about the fact that they were a family. And the Lord came down, capital Lord, to see the city and the tower, which the children of men built. He came down to study it. And he said, look, who did he say that to? He was talking to his cohorts. He was talking to them. He said, look, the people is one. Now think of that story in Genesis. Think of this, all the other stories, the story in Elijah, and listen to this. The Lord said the people is one, and they have all one thought, and this they began to do, And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Now, imagination is a natural part of you being created. It is the way you manipulate the physical world through imagination. This is a natural part of your existence, imagination. And they imagine oneness. And so this God said, oh, they're using their imagination to be one, and nothing will be restrained from them. There will be no limits as a result of this. Nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down. You see that? There's an us. This is that entity saying he's God, talking to his other cohorts of the same mind as his. The same enemy that planted the tares in your mind. Go to, let us go down and then confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. Now, I want to talk to you about confusion or confound. God is not the author of confusion, says the Bible in another place, but of peace. So peace is the opposite of confusion or being confounded. But this entity is saying, let us go down there and confuse their language that they may not understand each other's speech. God is not the author of confusion. If you are in confusion, you are not listening to your Creator. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. You got countless denominations of prophets. You got countless sub-denominations of those denominations all over not only our community as a Black American, but over the country. And they all propose to read the Word of God. But then when you look at the Word of God, you got countless editions. Trump even unwrote his own Bible. You got countless variations, countless editions. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. But here in verse 7, let us go down there and confound their language that they may not understand one another's speech. So you don't know what he's saying. She don't know what she's saying. This group don't know what that group is saying. Nobody's listening because the enemy has come down and confounded our language, and we don't understand each other's speech. Verse 8. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon all of the face of the earth, and they left off to build the city. And now the city was a symbol of their unity and understanding. The scattering was confusion, so they could not understand and they could not build together in oneness. Unity and oneness is of God. Rationalization is of the enemy. Therefore, the name of it, verse 9, is called Babel. Why? Because the Lord did there confound, he admits it, confound the language of all the earth. From there did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of the earth. And at that point, He was able to rule through confounding. Now, anytime you see a nation at war with itself, it's going to be at war with everybody else. And I've often said that at the end of a world power, a world system, and the beginning of one, it is the most confused part of it. So when I'm calling for this American awakening, this American revival, I'm saying we may not be in the lead anymore because no one gets to lead the pack forever. But we still can be the leader in what it means to be a free people, what it means to be a united people and a planet that's in peace. Because see, God is of peace. You cannot get peace from war. You cannot make war and get peace. You can't kill another man's president and his children and think that he's going to forget about it down the line. God is not the author of confusion or confounding, but God is the author of peace. And so I'm calling us to awaken. I'm calling on us to awaken. And now first I want to deal with another concept, and I'm just going to go for it. Mind control versus mind training. There is a difference. I have a brother that is a bodybuilder, and he works with his muscles, lifting weights and all that kind of stuff. And he sometimes talks to me about it, and he talks about the various muscles and how they all work together to make the body function and to keep the body strong. And you have to isolate certain muscles in the body if they are weak. If you want to strengthen this particular muscle, there's a certain exercise that you have to do to strengthen that muscle and make it part of the overall development of the body. And so mind training is discipline. See, mind training is the discipline of isolating and strengthening. Mind control is a limitation. In mind training, you have freedom, unlimited freedom. In mind control, you are limited. Mind training is based in knowledge. Mind control is based in belief. Mind control is limitation. Mind training is freedom. Because you learn your freedom and you develop and you're able to go in freedom. And mind control violates the rules of your mind. It's like planing wood across the grain. That's mind control. It violates the rules that govern the way you think or the way your mind works. It binds you and limits you. But as I said, mind training is discipline. It disciplines you. And so it reveals the need, by the way, to walk in a certain path. Now, it looks like I've already gone an hour, and I guess I'm going to pick this up again on Wednesday because I don't want to belabor the point. But I'm talking about a call for American awakening, and I got some things here that we can do that will give us that awakening, that will give us that revival. And so Wednesday at 7:15, I think I'll start there. I'll pick this back up on Wednesday and do a part 2 of it. Because I've already gone an hour and some time, and I don't want to give you too many facts at the same time. Anyway, I'm the Rational Man. See me on Wednesday at 7:15 p.m. and we're going to pick this lesson back up.